Topic 8. The Great Awakening. 1. Due to less religious fervor than before, and worry that so many people would not be saved, the stage was set for a revival, which occurred and became the First Great Awakening. 2. Jonathan Edwards was a preacher with fury preaching methods, emotionally moving many listeners to tears while talking of the eternal damnation that non-believers would face after death. He began preaching in 1734, and his methods sparked a debate among his peers. His most famous sermon was Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, describing a man dangling a spider over a blazing fire, able to drop the spider in at any time, just as God could do to man. His famous metaphor, the road to hell is paved with skulls of unbaptized children. 3. George Whitefield was even better than Edwards when he started 4 years later. An orator of rare gifts, he made Jonathan Edwards weep and persuaded always skeptical Ben Franklin to empty his pockets into the collection plate. Imitators copied his emotional shaking sermons and his heaping of blame on sinners. 4. These new preachers were met with skepticism by the old lights, or the orthodox clergymen. 5. However, the Great Awakening led to the founding of new light centers like Princeton, Brown, Rutgers, and Dartmouth. 6. The Great Awakening was the first religious experience shared by all Americans as a group. Topic 9. Schools and colleges. 1. Education was most important in New England, where it was used to train young future clergymen. In other parts of America, farm labor used up most of the time that would have been spent in school. However, there was fairly adequate primary and secondary schools in areas other than New England. The only problem was that the only well-to-do children could afford to attend. 2. In a gloomy and grim atmosphere, colonial schools put most of the emphasis on religion and on the classical languages, as well as doctrine and orthodoxy. Discipline was quite severe, as a child being cut by a limb from a birch tree. 3. Also, at least in New England, college education was regarded as more important than the ABCs. 4. Eventually some changes were made with emphasis on curriculum change from dead languages to live ones, and Ben Franklin helped by launching the school that would become the University of Pennsylvania. Topic 10. A provincial culture. 1. Though there was little time for recreation due to farm work and fear of Indians, the little free time that was there was used on religion, not art. 2. Painters were frowned upon as pursuing a worthless pastime. John Trumbull of Connecticut was discouraged as a youth by his father. Charles Willson Peale, best known for his portraits of George Washington, also ran a museum, stuffed birds, and practiced dentistry in addition to his art. Benjamin West and John Singleton Copley had to go to England to complete their ambitious careers. 3. Architecture was largely imported from the Old World and modified to meet American needs. The log cabin was borrowed from Sweden. The classical red-bricked Georgian style of architecture was introduced about 1720. 4. Colonial literature was also generally undistinguished. However, a slave girl, Phyllis Wheatley, who had never been formally educated, did go to Britain and publish a book of verse, and subsequently wrote the other polished poems that revealed the influence of Alexander Pope. Ben Franklin's Poor Richard Almanac was very influential, containing many common sayings and phrases, and was more widely read in America and Europe than anything but for the Bible. Ben Franklin's experiments with science and his sheer power of observation also helped advance science. Topic 11. Pioneer presses. 1. Few libraries were found in early America, and few Americans were rich enough to buy books. 2. On the eve of the Revolution, many hand-operated presses cranked out leaflets, pamphlets, and journals. 3. In one famous case, John Peter Zenger, a New York newspaper printer, was taken to court and charged with libel, writing in a malicious manner against someone. The judge urged the jury to consider that the mere fact of publishing was a crime, no matter what the content was derogatory or not. Zenger won after his lawyer, Andrew Hamilton, excellently defended his case. The importance freedom of the press scored a huge early victory in this case. Topic 12. The Great Game of Politics. 1. By 1775, 8 of the colonies had royal governors who were appointed by the king. 2. 3 had governors chosen by parishioners. 3. Practically every colony utilized a two-house legislative body. The upper house was appointed by royal officials or parishioners. The lower house was elected by the people. 4. Self-taxation with representation came to be a cherished privilege that Americans came to value above most other rights. 5. Most governors did a good job, but some were just plain corrupt. For example, Lord Cornbury, first cousin of Queen Anne, was made governor of New York and New Jersey in 1702, but proved to be a drunkard, a spendthrift, a grafter, and embezzler, a religious bigot, a cross-dresser, and a vain fool. 6. The right to vote was not available to just anyone, just white male land owners only. However, the ease of acquiring land to hard workers made voting a privilege easily attainable to many people in this group. Topic 13. Colonial Folkways. 1. Americans had many hardships, as many basic amenities that we have today were not available. Churches weren't heated at all. Running water or plumbing in houses was non-existent. Garbage disposal was primitive at best. 2. Yet amusement was permitted and people often worked and partied during house raisings, barn raisings, apple parings, quilting bees, husking bees, and other merrymaking. 3. In the South, card playing, horse racing, cockfighting, and fox hunting were fun. 4. Lotteries were universally approved, even by the clergy, because they helped raise money for churches and colleges. 5. Stage plays were popular in the South, but not really in the North. Holidays were celebrated everywhere in the colonies. New England didn't like Christmas, though. 7. America in 1775 was like a quilt, each part different and individual in its own way, but all coming together to form one single unified piece. Topic 14. Makers of America. The Scots-Irish. 1. Life for the Scots was miserable in England, as many were extremely poor, and Britain still taxed them, squeezing the last cent out of them. 2. Migrating to Ulster in Ireland, the Scots still felt unwelcome and eventually came to America. 3. They constantly tried to further themselves away from Britain. Most went to Pennsylvania, where tolerance was high. 4. The Scots-Irish were many of America's pioneers, clearing the trails for others to follow. 5. Otherwise independent, religion was the only thing that bonded these people. 6. Their hatred of England made them great allies and supporters of the United States during the Revolutionary War.